I just heard the news about the vote, and so I'm wearing a designer jacket by Roger Dack, gay designer, Hardy Ames tie, gay designer, and a wool shirt with wool from a gay ram. So I'm all ready to be married. Right, so we only want the Queen to sign that bill. I don't mind signing it, but there we go. So it's Gay History Month this month, and I thought, what will I talk to you about? Thing is, I can't always remember what I said last time. But, so if I cover the same things twice, I don't know, I might. But let me tell you maybe about, would you be interested in the history of gay pride? Yeah. They don't call it gay pride anymore, by the way, it's just pride, whatever that means. But once upon a time, pride had a meaning. And in 1971, a group of us at Gay Liberation Front, I don't know, we sort of decided we would march. And this was extraordinary because no one was out, apart from some people in GLF, Gay Liberation Front. So I don't know how we got permission, but we got permission to walk down Oxford Street, Regent Street to Trafalgar Square. And there were about maybe 150 of us, 200 maybe, 400 police on either side of us. And we walked down Oxford Street and we were laughing and smiling, and I was doing this, and other people were doing their thing, and the tourists were bemused. And we had our banners, and of course I was marching with someone I just met who was he was a Welsh lumberjack, and he worked for the Forestry Commission. They called them foresters. Alas, I never got to bed him in the end. But there we go. So I actually put up the entire Welsh contingent in my pad. There were 5 of them, and I still know 2 of them. So we marched along, and along the way I discovered some extraordinary things about the authorities I never really suspected, because the guy who was next to me, not the forester, but a professor of computers, said to a policeman, a bobby, in one of those helmets, in the usual uniform, he said, "Do you know why we're doing this?" He thought he'd do a little bit of propagandizing, because the whole idea of pride and coming out was all extremely new. And the policeman said, "I know who you are. I won't give his real name, though he's dead. You're Peter Smith. You're a professor of computers at so-and-so college, and you live at number 3 Runner Road, NW3, Hampstead, don't you? This is a PC." So they considered us to be subversives. I hope we were, but they took us seriously. They tapped our phone lines and special branch, and there were cameras trained on us as well. Anyway, Peter was shaken. An ordinary bobby would know that information. So I think I told you when we got to Trafalgar Square, there were these big lions, and we surrounded them. A few people got up on the lions. We had megaphones. We didn't have a PA system. And then there were loads of police, and then the crowds of people who wondered what was going on. And speeches were made, subversive speeches, no doubt. And one guy got up, a young guy of about 20, and he said, "I'm French. I love London, it's my favourite city." This is all over Trafalgar Square. He said, "It's my favourite city. It's the city I first got fucked in." And that was the first ever march. It wasn't called Pride, it was just a Gay Liberation Front march. And a year later, Pride started, and I went on most of them, not all, and they sidelined us to go down Park Lane in Piccadilly after a while, because we were too prominent in Oxford Street and we obstructed the traffic or something. And I remember walking down Park Lane, I think it was. No, it was more crowded. It was Piccadilly, and it was pouring with rain. And I had an umbrella, and I thought, well, this is the ideal time to do something. So it was sing in the rain, splash, splash, and so on with my umbrella. Da, 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 da. Policeman comes up to me and says, "What are you doing? You're not allowed to do that." The special branch had infiltrated Gay Liberation Front, and I've got bits of evidence, but they actually thought, I don't know what they thought we were up to, but they had infiltrated us, and they had, I know someone who was blackmailed. He'd be charged with some gay offence or other if he didn't report back to them with information. And they also bribed people as well. He got a £5 note. So Prides continued, and they were gay pride, and they were very political. And people came from all over the country, and they got larger and larger. And we had 5,000 people after about 3 or 4 years, or 5 years. That doesn't seem very many, does it? But people were really scared they'd be seen on television cameras, and they were in the closet. Sometimes their wives, if it was men, or husbands, sometimes parents, they were very worried about it. Anyway, the big break came after all these Pride events. By the way, Pride people were insulted and sworn at outside the Cohern pub in Earl's Court one year, because the people in the pub, which was a gay pub, a leather pub, thought that the marchers were too open. They were letting the side down. Anyway, that Prides continued. They got better organised, more people, but still only, I think, I don't know what the maximum was. And then there was the Pride at Jubilee Gardens. I think that was the biggest. But then came section, is it 28 or 9? 28, okay. I did that deliberately to see if you knew. And section 28, and there were protest marches, and that's when it really took off, the idea of marches, huge numbers, and outside London. Some of the Prides, before section 28 protests, were outside London, because the GLF, Gay Liberation Front, had all sorts of principles. We weren't actually fighting for gay rights, which most people think. We were fighting for liberation, sexual liberation for everyone, in particular ourselves, but changing attitudes in society, and we really believed that we were getting somewhere. And so when we had the first ever gay dance, I did tell you about that, the gay ball in Kensington Town Hall. To get in was sixpence of the old money. It was deliberately kept really cheap so everyone could afford it. Everything was organised in connection with our principles. And we tried to be as democratic as possible. We also felt that people outside London shouldn't be left out. So when there were issues outside London, like Sandwell Council, which is to do with rugby, decided that they weren't going to have any gay staff. In particular, teachers would be sacked. Gay means men and women. They would be sacked. We got somewhat irritated, not surprisingly, and we decided to have a pride in rugby. So I remember going through the streets of Rugby. We went up there in coaches, but people from other towns could come, like Manchester. It was easier to reach. And there were sit-downs on the way and a little bit of violence, not a lot. And we eventually ended up in a big hall. There were some trade unionists there who supporters of gay rights in this case. And then a trade union leader made a speech, and then a member of parliament who was a Labour MP got up and he said, "My name's Chris Smith. I'm Member of Parliament for Islington South, and I'm gay." I realised at once that this was really quite a statement, but that the gay press didn't get it. I told them it would be big news, and 2 weeks later, I think it was the national press got hold of it, and it was big news. An MP comes out.
2 more minutes, please.
2 more minutes. What would you like to ask me a question, anyone?
Would you have gotten married if you'd had the chance?
One
and
thing
you were
about
like us,
marriage
would you have gotten
was
married?
that we were so fucked up by the persecution that went on, and I have no love letters, though I had lovers. I was too frightened to have written material because it could be used against me in court. Who knows what could have happened? So people were defensive, most people, not Quentin Crisp, the concept of marriage wasn't even talked about. And although I had long-term relationships, we never discussed the idea of getting hitched with the state's approval. But so many people had so many problems because they weren't accepted by society. A large numbers of people, that's the reformist groups, wanted to be accepted. But they asked, please accept us, change the laws, make it easier for us. But Gay Liberation Front said, we demand this and we want that and we're going to have it.
Everyone. Thank you very much. Michael, our resident gay historian, who comes in and talks to us on the first Tuesday of every month and is absolutely adorable, I think.